Let's start with the Sugar Bowl. Fresh on the mind, 23-10 final for Notre Dame. I'll start with this, Mitch. I thought Gunnar Stockton played really well
I
for
did
the
too.
for the position that he was thrown into. There were some really bad busts on the offensive line that hurt him, that caused a couple of fumbles. There were some really bad drops from the receivers, like there have been all season long, that stalled drives and made it much more difficult on him. But overall, he was not the reason they lost today.
No, definitely not. I mean, you mentioned it. The offensive line was a turnstile at left tackle. It didn't matter who was coming off the edge. I know RJ Oben forced, I think, the first strip sack there late in the second quarter that then allowed Notre Dame to throw a touchdown pass. But Stockton was running for his life. I'll tell you this, I love the way that Stockton throws the ball. He throws fastballs over the top, man, like he's pitching off a mound. And I think he's a lot of fun to watch. He's got the dual threat mobility to him. I sat there going, I know Georgia's not scoring points right now, but how on earth was Stockton riding the bench over Carson Beck, especially when Stockton seemed to handle pressure much more than Carson Beck ever did. ESPN showed a graphic of Carson, which, I mean, boy, he was catching some strays. He wasn't even in this game. One of the worst quarterbacks in the country when it came to throwing under pressure. Stockton stood in there and took some hits under the chin. I thought he played like a champ today, despite the offense only putting up 10 points.
Yeah, but the story was that Notre Dame defense, just like last week against Indiana, just completely, it felt like at halftime, it was a 10-point lead, and I texted that it felt like a 30-point lead. Yeah. Because the odds that Notre Dame defense, the way that they were playing, was going to allow Georgia to sustain enough drives and sustain enough time of possession, frankly, to get back into that game. I know it was close going into the fourth quarter, but it really felt like an insurmountable lead at halftime, the way that defense was playing. Again, not so much the offense. I thought Gunnar Stockton was fine, but the defense was really forcing the issue. And that matchup with Penn State might be another relatively low-scoring game in the semifinal with Penn State. I'm really interested to see how those two defenses match up again. But, yeah, I mean, it was a defensive struggle like we highlighted that it probably would be. I don't think Georgia's defense played bad either. You had the short field after the strip sack. You had the opening kickoff of the second half return for a touchdown. That's 14 points right there that could flip the game the other way. The defense played well enough to win, but yeah, just a combination of the Notre Dame defensive line and secondary being absolutely elite, not giving a lot of cushion like we said that they wouldn't, and inexperienced quarterback trying his best, but coming up just a little bit short. And it played out pretty much exactly like we thought it might.
Yeah. I think that's a good segue into my next question for you. Grade Notre Dame's offense. They have less than 250 total yards. Riley Leonard throws for 90 yards, 3.8 in average pass. They run for 154. Again, Riley Leonard, student body left, student body right. I mean, it was a lot of quarterback power. So I have a theory on this, but first I want to kind of hear your honest assessment of Notre Dame's offense. Again, given the fact that they just won the Sugar Bowl, but put it in context of, can they win a national championship doing that?
I think they can get to the national championship doing that. I don't know that if it's Ohio State on the other side, that's going to be that's kind of the ultimate trump card right now with the way that Ohio State's offense is playing. You're going to have to find a way to keep up with that. But I mean, it's hard to really fault them because they just kind of did what they needed to do in this game. It reminded me a lot of the Texas A&M game at the beginning of the season, where they looked across the other side and said, hey, that guy's probably not going to beat us. Talking about Connor Wegman in the first week, and talking about Gunnar Stockton and just the whole offensive unit of Georgia. Offensive line, receivers dropping the ball at all. Let's just not give them an opportunity to beat us by playing recklessly, right? That was kind of the strategy for Notre Dame. It was kind of just take care of the football, move down the field, get into field goal range, put some points on the board when we can, and that'll be enough in this game. And credit Marcus Freeman for taking advantage of that and not trying to force the issue. It's really tempting when you're in a defensive struggle like that, when your defense is playing really well, you want that big play. You want the backbreaker. You want the pull ahead play. But a lot of times just sustaining a long drive, keeping the ball away from the other offense and keeping your defense off the field is really the way to go in that. And finishing drives with 3 points was more than okay today. They knew that, and they didn't have to force the issue. So you asked for a grade. I guess I'd give them, they won the game, so I'd give them somewhere between a C+ and a B-. It wasn't pretty, but it didn't have to be today. They just kind of did what they needed to do.
I thought, I agree. I think on its face, fine. Given the context, passing grade. Good job. You did exactly what you needed to do. I thought where the edge came in, Trey, was honestly the coach wearing the headset. I thought Marcus Freeman outcoached Kirby Smart in this game. Yeah. The 4th down fire drill was brilliant. I mean, brilliant. And I've had my doubts about Marcus Freeman. I mean, of course, going back to last year, the last couple of years, so many questions about, is Freeman the guy? Is he more than just a player's coach who, the players like him, but when it comes to the championship, when it comes to winning a big game, 10 men on the field against Ohio State, we lost to Marshall, we lost to Northern Illinois. He won me over with that 4th down fire drill and just the orchestration of the game plan, because he knew what his team needed to do to knock off the kings of college football. I mean, Kirby Smart is the king of college football, right? Georgia is the standard in today's college football. And he beat them at their own game. His defense was more physical and smothering than the Bulldogs. His offense was able to grind out yards and find those extra inches more so than Georgia was. I mean, Jordan Faison, man, it's fun to hear how he's a dual sport athlete and a national championship lacrosse player. That guy's just a winner. Mm-hmm. Watching him fight for extra yardage, and even if he didn't get the first down, boy, he was making it close. It was going to be 4th and inches instead of 3rd and 4. I had a buddy texting me who was pulling for Georgia, and he's like, we just cannot stop Faison. Every single 3rd down, it's going to Jordan, and he's going to get right to the line, if not past it, right? It was that kind of day for Georgia. I was just so impressed with Freeman and the job that he and his staff did. It felt like they got everything to go right, and yet I didn't feel like this was a fluke for Notre Dame. I felt like, nope, this is the team. This is the culture that he's built.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that fire drill was the perfect low risk, high reward situation. If Georgia doesn't jump off sides there, they probably don't snap the ball, and they just eat the timeout, or they burn the timeout, or take the 5-yard penalty and just punt, and it's fine because they're up at that point. Perfect low risk, high reward situation with that in my mind. Couldn't have said it better myself. I've been really impressed with Marcus Freeman these last 2 weeks, having his team ready. I joked with you in a text earlier that if he lost to Indiana, if he would have found a way to lose to Indiana, there might have been some really unhappy people up in South Bend, but he's got him in the semifinals. He's got Notre Dame with the best chance to win a national championship in my lifetime. I know they made the BCS championship against Bama 10, 15 years ago, but we all knew going into that game that there wasn't really a fighting chance in that one. Yeah. So I think this is the best chance Notre Dame's had to win a title in my lifetime. And I think there's that's a huge win for Marcus Freeman and a really exciting moment in the program to be where they are right now and have the reinforcements coming on the way, because he's doing a great job on the recruiting trail as well.
Well, he is. And, I think 2 things, and we can move on to the Fiesta Bowl. I think number one, I think if Notre Dame is able to win a national championship, I think it's going to be a fascinating study in the trends of college football. Like, does this reset college football to, you don't have to throw for 400 yards to win big games, right? You don't have to have the Maseratis and the Ferraris out wide to win a national championship. You can just win it with defense and good fundamental football. I mean, we've been saying defense is going to win a championship this year. All 4 teams that are left play excellent defense. And I would go so far as to say all 4 of these teams hang their hat on a championship caliber defense. So that's going to be my main takeaway, I think, from whoever hoists the national championship. But if Notre Dame,
you took the words right out of my mouth, man. Like it is all 4 of these teams are defense first teams. It's weird to say that with Ohio State because of the Maseratis that they do have on the offensive side of the football, but they are defense first teams and they're all in the semifinals.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at the math and that's the elite side of the ball, if you will. So yeah, if Notre Dame is able to get it done with another, 244-yard offensive output, we're going to have some fascinating discussions about the state of college football and what wins. And as you mentioned, they're doing a great job recruiting. We were talking about Notre Dame quarterback room going forward this year. Fascinating offseason discussions, I think, coming up.
Speaking of offseason, real quick. What is your temperature on Georgia heading into the offseason as a program? Ooh. That might be a way too big question for right now, 45 minutes into a recap show, and that's okay. But 3 losses this year, didn't lose to a bad team by any stretch of the imagination, but reloading at quarterback, always going to be losing a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball that they have to figure out how to replace. Temperature check.
Not great. Not great. I think the shine might have worn off Georgia just a little bit. And I'll kind of leave it at that. I think there are a lot of cracks in this foundation. I think whether you want to point at the coaching staff, the culture, the recruiting, I think there are some cracks. I think there are some misses in Athens right now. And I know that's not what Dog fans want to hear. I'm not rooting against Georgia, but boy, watching that team this year, some missed evaluations, some missed coaching hires. I don't think anybody thinks that Mike Bobo was the right move. There's some issues in Athens that Kirby now gets to actually play the rat poison card. There are people that will doubt Georgia all off season long. And when they go 15 or 16-0 next year, whatever, congrats. I mean, we played right into your hand, but yes, there are some issues there.
They did do a lot of work in the transfer portal already in the receiving core. So that's big. They're also rumored to be in on Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. So that would be another big addition for them if they can land him. Yeah, I know. But anyways, this isn't an A&M podcast. But you got to start with the offensive coordinator for me. Mike Bobo needs to be gone yesterday and got to find someone that can better utilize the talent that they have. I know that there were a lot of execution issues this year. The drops, the missed blocks, it was not pretty, but somebody that can just own that side of the football and let Kirby cook on the defense would do wonders, just like Monken did. Monken was fantastic at that, and that's why Stetson Bennett was who he was for Georgia. It was a lot of scheme and maximizing the talent that he did have with the scheme.
Gracious, how about that?